Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, National Assembly demands explanations for the return and reinstatement of Abdul Rashid Mena in the Federal Civil Service. Anti-graft agency EFCC moves in on Mena's properties, seals up his houses in Kaduna. President Buhari calls for caution in the push for single regional currency for West African states. And Kenya's Supreme Court to hear petition by rights activists to take last-minute decision on whether or not to rerun the presidential election. And in business news tonight, Nigeria set to comply with OPEC's output cut, plans 1.8 million barrels daily production for 2018.
On sports news, MPFL side Abia Warriors unveil Brazilian tactician Rafael Everton as the new head coach of the team.
And from Abuja, ahead of the People's Democratic Party's national convention, PDP National Executive Council meets with party chairmanship candidates.
We begin tonight from Abuja, where the dust is yet to settle on the reinstatement and eventual sack of the former chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Pension Reform, Abdul Rashid Mena. Today, members of both chambers of the National Assembly resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the sequence of events that led to Mr. Mena's reinstatement in the civil service. The lawmakers described the development as a shocker, calling for a thorough investigation. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
It was a matter which was definitely going to be brought up at plenary. The return and reinstatement of a fugitive, Mr. Abdul Rashid Mena. An investigative report from the Aloysius Etuk Committee in the 7th Assembly had accused the former chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Pension Fund, Mr. Abdul Rashid Mena, of embezzling pension funds. The EFCC subsequently declared him wanted, and he has been at large.
Somebody who has been declared wanted.
The reappearance and reinstatement of Mr. Mena into the service is a shocker for these lawmakers who feel it is a slap on their faces.
Then I think it's a big embarrassment for this government. So we need the Senate, I think, to investigate this matter and find out how did the person come back. How is it that security men are attached to him, nobody arrested him, somebody that is still on wanted list by the EFCC and now given a position of director.
For me, as a member of the APC, it's a sad moment. We cannot be saying we want to fight corruption, and then we allow this kind of, the more you look, the less you see.
For some lawmakers, certain ministers are complicit in the return and reinstatement of Mr. Mena.
Mena is too small to just wake up and just resume office as a director. Somebody gave the directive to make Mena go to the office. Minister of Interior said that he has no power to return Mena, that somebody else is responsible for returning Mena. Mr. President, the person who returned Mena, as we were told, is the Attorney General of the Federation. This is not the first time the Attorney General is doing something like this. Only recently, the Attorney General wrote his opinion to INEC that certificate of return should be withdrawn from me and given to somebody else.
The resolution that the Attorney General of the Federation and the head of service be summoned to face the Senate at plenary was turned down. However, an ad hoc committee has been set up to investigate the matter. The issue was also raised in the House of Representatives, and Larry Lasisi gives us details on what transpired.
Thanks, Linda. Well, the matter also drew a passionate debate from lawmakers in the House of Representatives. They called for an immediate investigation into what they describe as an affront to the fight against corruption.
That during the campaigns, minor case was used as a case study to portray that Goodluck Jonathan administration was corrupt. And that when APC comes into government, the president is going to fight it in the grand style. But Mr. Speaker, what are you saying to me? Mr. Speaker, my hope personally is dying. and a lot of Nigerians' homes are dying. Is this how we are going to continue? Where people will still, they are not reprimanded, they are even engaged and even promoted. It means we are celebrating corruption.
This is a monumental, we cannot emphasize it enough, an unprecedented embarrassment to this country and to the National Assembly. We cannot be further embarrassed. So I want to categorically state that we cannot trust this executive, unfortunately, to do due diligence and justice to this issue. We still have the pending issue of the, I don't know whether to call him former or currently suspended Secretary to the Federal Government. The case has still not been adequately addressed by the current administration.
An ad hoc committee is to be set up to investigate the matter and recommend strong sanctions against those implicated. The House is also urging the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to immediately arrest Mr. Maina for subsequent prosecution. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, 2 buildings in Kaduna State allegedly belonging to Mr. Maina have been sealed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The sealed properties are a 2-story shopping plaza at 2C Ibrahim Taiwo Road and a 1-story duplex at the Katuru Road, all located in the state capital. A top official of the agency told Channels Television that 5 more houses in the state capital belonging to Mr. Maina have been traced and will soon be sealed. Meanwhile, the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, has described the reinstatement of the former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdurrashid Maina, as both embarrassing and unbelievable. According to the APC spokesman, Bolaji Abdullahi, the party was shocked by the report of the reinstatement of Mr. Maina, who is facing corruption allegations. A statement reads, "We are all shocked. It's most unbelievable that such a thing can happen. However, we are all delighted that President Muhammadu Buhari has taken very decisive punitive action against those that are involved. We are also delighted that he has ordered a full-scale investigation into the circumstances that led to this individual being reinstated into public office." The party is also hopeful that everyone found guilty in the reinstatement would face the music. End of quote. Away from that saga, the president has advised member countries of the Economic Community of West African States to tread with caution regarding the push for a single regional currency by 2020. President Muhammadu Buhari made the call today at the meeting of the ECOWAS Task Force on Common Currency for the West African region in Niamey, Niger Republic. He revealed this in a series of tweets on the issue discussed at the meeting in the Nigerian capital. According to President Buhari, with regards to integration, it's important for member nations to take into consideration their varying economic conditions as well as the lessons unfolding in the EU. The president says, quote, "Nigeria will caution against any position that pushes for a fast-track approach to monetary union while neglecting pertinent issues. Our view is that the ECOWAS member states are not fully prepared for a monetary union," end of quote. For President Buhari, there's still a lot of work to be done, and he's therefore recommending the constitution of an expert committee to come up with an acceptable roadmap, timelines, and budget. The quest for a common currency in the West African region has been on for over a decade, with several postponements. In this next report, Channel's business news correspondent Temple Ashaju examines the roadmap of the single currency campaign.
The Presidential Task Force on ECOWAS Currency Program is a brainchild of the Economic Community of West African States, aimed at achieving harmonized monetary policies among member nations. The summit this year, hosted by Niger, has been assessing progress towards the goal 30 years after it was first sketched, and Nigeria joins the Commission to caution against the initiative. In 2013, Niger and Ghana were saddled with the responsibility of coordinating the single currency campaign, while in 2014, the task force was set up to provide guidance on the scheme. Today, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Mr. Marcel de Souzas, believes that the goal has failed. Reasons identified for the setback include the lack of matching results on the 4 goals of the vision, members' inability to uphold prime criteria of the program for macroeconomic convergence, failure to harmonize monetary policies of the 8 currencies utilized by ECOWAS economies, as well as the absence of a forerunner of a common central bank. 8 ECOWAS states currently have the CFA franc as their legal tender under the West African Monetary Union, while the 7 others have non-convertible and independent currencies. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
And to discuss Nigeria's response to the push for a single regional currency for West African states, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you very much, Jama.
Now, is this a blow for advocates of this single currency, seeing as Nigeria has said, not now? You know, they tend to look to Nigeria for direction and in terms of what to do next. Do you think it's a blow to them?
No, it's not exactly a blow. What is at stake here is a word of caution, just as the President has said. The principle of single currency is not being disputed by the President. The merit or otherwise of it is not being debated. What is being put forward is the timing of the adoption of the single currency. You know, for you to have a sustainable monetary union, first of all, when we talk about integration, there are levels of integration. You have what you call the free trade area, where you can trade among yourselves, and you have different custom duties. You have what you call the customs union, which is the higher level of integration. You trade among yourselves, you reduce the internal barriers, and you have a common external tariff. That is where we are now. So the next step is what you call the monetary union, where you have a single currency. Already the Francophone countries already have a common currency, which is the CFA, which is linked to the euro. The key issue about monetary union or single currency has to do more with the Anglophone West African countries. Beyond the monetary union, you now have the political union, where you have a common currency and the same government. That is the limit or the extreme of economic integration. So the point here is that for you to have a sustainable economic integration, particularly monetary union, there are certain criteria that must be met. That's about macroeconomic fundamentals. There has to be proper alignment between the countries along the lines of their monetary policy.
Yes, and I was going to come to that as
Yes.
well. In terms of that proper alignment, because even within individual countries themselves, there's a mismatch between their fiscal policy, their monetary policy, as you say.
Yes. Most of those countries are actually not very stable economically. Most of their macroeconomic fundamentals are still very weak. For instance, one of the criteria is that you must have single-digit inflation. How many countries in the West African sub-region have a single-digit inflation? Even in Nigeria, our inflation is well over 15% as we speak. Your fiscal deficit to GDP ratio should not be more than 4%. Many of the countries in the West African sub-region has exceeded that by far. Then the external reserves must at least exceed at least 3 months of imports. And the CBN financing of deficit must also not exceed 10% of the total revenue. So all these critical criteria that needs to be met, most of these countries have not met those criteria. So when you have such conditions in many of the countries, it doesn't make sense, and it is also not advisable for you now to jump into a monetary union or a single currency. If you do that, it will create more complications. So it is better for us to remain the way we are and gradually sort out these very important macroeconomic issues before we move forward.
Okay, Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, thanks for sharing your thoughts on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you very much.